Hey, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. This is Moments of Sanctuary, where I share stories of where the sacred has just encountered the ordinary. Today will be a 2 out of 3, but it doesn't really matter what order you listen to them in. For the trip of Alabama, there was actually 2 trips, and I am combining them, so give me a little grace there. They were both in response to Hurricane Katrina relief. So today's story starts with the fact that there were 53 people on a charter bus, and it started with a confession that their leader, myself, had a huge fail. So I knew that this charter bus was really nice. It had the really nice thick seats with the DVD players and all that kind of good stuff. And we start out and they say, okay, Kristen, you know, what did you bring for us to watch? Because it's a 16-hour drive. And I thought, oh, yeah, kind of neglected to deal with that. So there was all this great ability to play videos with no DVDs. So at the first stop where we stopped to refuel the bus and get snacks, I took a couple of the youth, we went over to the bin and we're digging through looking for something G-rated, right, that everybody can watch on this bus. And we're talking about things and we're looking through, and Aaron comes over and says, what are y'all doing? I said, well, you know, I neglected to bring the videos, so we're looking for something we can watch, you know, that's rated G, so that it's okay for the 12-year-olds that are on the trip. And he goes, well, good luck with that at a gas station and all. It's like 10 years later and I'm still laughing. It's like, excellent. But the awesome thing is I did come across a couple DVDs that were, and we put one in, and it was this movie on Bigfoot, and the acting was so bad, over the top bad, the worst acting I have ever encountered in my entire life. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, y'all. And they're like, no, this is the worst movie ever. We gotta watch this. Then we'll have to destroy it. So we watched it, we cringed, we moaned, we started making fun of it. At the next stop, when it was over, we got out and we smashed and wrecked the DVDs. It was actually pretty glorious, relatively inexpensive entertainment, but that was a total fail. There's so much humor that goes on in these trips, and I was reminded just this morning by a post of a picture from this trip that there was this great water balloon war that was going on. And finally the boys were a little rough with the girls, and they had had enough, and they were trying to say enough is enough, and I had to be the bad guy and come in and give a cease water balloon war for the rest of the trip. But the spirit there, I really appreciate. I really appreciate this fun-loving, playful spirit, and it's only when it crosses the line to distract us from the real reason that it needs to be pulled back in check. Even the adults seem to be into it. I was getting up to do my talk for the 3rd evening, and they said, Kristen, we need to have a serious talk. And I was like, okay. And they're like, we don't think you should talk tonight. And I was like, what? What's going on? They're like, the first night you were preaching from the scripture and you covered rain. The next day we had so much rain we had trouble working. The next evening you were talking about the wind in the story. We had terrible wind today, Kristen. We've looked at this scripture. After that is the floods. Don't speak. So even the adults have this great sense of humor in this, and we had to be flexible. It was hot. It was one of the very hottest missions. All missions are usually hot, but particularly hot and humid down in southern Alabama in the summer. And we were leaving by 8 o'clock for our mission sites, coming back by 3 in the afternoon. But we were so wilty and so lack of energy from the extreme heat. People were getting dehydrated easily, so we decided after the first day we would move it up an hour. So we left by 7, got back at 2. That was still really rough. Anything after noon was getting pretty rough. So we had another meeting. We decided we're gonna move it up again. So then we were leaving by 6 a.m. and getting back by 1. And our kitchen director, manager for the week, Cindy, she came and said, y'all, I appreciate what you're doing here, but if you move it up anymore, your breakfast is canceled. Because, you know, that's an hour before that. So we're having to be at breakfast at 5 a.m. at this point. And we're like, okay, we'll cut it off here. So we were always done by 1 p.m. so that we could go get in the Gulf and cool off because it was brutally hot. But we were serving at 9 different sites, and I had the awesome job of going around and supervising and getting any miscellaneous supplies. So I got to see all of it that was going on, all these awesome places that we had been forming a relationship with, discovering places and families that really, I'm not quite sure how they would have gotten assistance without our help intervening. And one place was a woman living with her son at this house, and this was about 11 months after Katrina, and there had been some water that had come in and settled in the house, and so they were still living there. We made the water line, started ripping out the wall to discover there was still a lot of mold that was still in that house. They hadn't caught it for whatever reason, because we're not supposed to have youth working with the mold. It's dangerous. And here these people are living in this house. And so we changed crews. We said we need only the upper class boys to be on this crew. We're gonna put them in the kind of hazmat kind of suits. We're gonna put the respirators on them. We're gonna get in here. We're gonna get these people out so they are not living in this. And we really felt like in a lot of ways we're probably saving these people's lives living in this horrible mold condition. And so we go in. I can't go in the house because I don't have the proper equipment. They're all suited up. But I walk around the house and I'm looking in the windows. And when I got to the little boy's room and I looked in his window, from the water line down was now open exposed beams, but the wall up was still standing, and there was a poster on his wall and it said, "God is with me." And I just thought, yeah, this is how that spirit works, looking out for one another, having fun and laughing while doing it with service. But this is why we come, when we have these kind of connections and stories and encounters. And we got the next year and got this house hooked up with a Lutheran relief organization so that we got this restored and fixed properly so that they could live safely. And this is just how we get to be a part of each other's stories. We get to laugh along the way, and we get to make a difference looking out for one another. So may you remember that you have been fearfully and wonderfully made. May you lean into your own moments of sanctuary, looking for those places where you can be a blessing and then be blessed. So have a blessed day.